Okay, so project is set, and what approach should we use for this object? Feel free to give your input. Okay, so this is clearly a cylindrical shape, so we're going to start with this, and this has two sides and both are identical, as you can see, right? So what we can do is we can create this part, and then we can create a duplicate of it and then merge these two and create a bridge between these two. So I'm going to create a block out first for this and show you what we are going to do is, so for example, this is the right side and this is the other side. Now we have to create the center part where this rope is gonna hang. So how do we do that? We need to create a subdivision in these faces. So since these two are identical, I'm going to use just this one, and we can either add a subdivision here like this, or we can select the faces and offset them. So I think this would be much better. Now to make this proper aligned, we have to scale up this edge, and now I think this would be ready to go. I'm going to create a duplicate and place it other side. Now to bridge these two, we have to rotate this and make sure these two selections are facing each other. If you don't do it, what happens is, if I combine these two and select the face and bridge, you see one side is bigger and other side is smaller, and that's why we have to rotate this. So I'm going to separate this and rotate, and now if I select these two and now to select these faces, we can manually select them or we can use select similar. And if I bridge now, then you'll see that size of this bridge is fine. It's not upscaled on any of the sides. And don't worry about this green color. You can just go to existing material and apply this Lambert again, and it will fix this. So most of the time when you bridge or extrude, you'll see these hard edges in a cylindrical shape. So to remove this, you just have to go to mesh display and set your object to soften and harden edges, and it will fix this issue. So this is the basic approach we are going to use to create this metal pulley. So I'm going to start with a cylinder, rotate it, and add one cap so that we can create this part, right? So as you can see that this part is curved. So for this, I'm going to select this edge first and scale it, and maybe bring it here. This much should be fine. And then we have to include these faces. So I'll just select these. So you can either press Ctrl E and then reduce this thickness, or the quicker way would be just press Shift and push this inside like this. Right? So if I have to curve this, I'm going to select this edge and use bevel. Sometimes it doesn't work, so just delete by type history, and I'm going to select this edge and bevel. Let's undo this, and one more time let's extrude. Maybe we had some double faces there. Okay, now it's working fine. So I'm going to increase the fraction to 0.8. This much should be fine, and maybe give it 2 or 3 segments. Looks good. And also I think this part would not be that hard, so I'm going to select this edge and again bevel. And maybe add one segment. And just to be sure, I'm going to select all the vertices and merge. Now the thickness of this part I think is too much, so I'm going to go to vertex mode and select these vertices and maybe pull them to this side. Also I think the corners are not going to be that sharp, so we have to select these and bevel so that we can smooth them a little bit. All right, and select this part and maybe scale it up. So one side is ready. Now what we can do, let's go to the front view and place it here. And I'm going to create a duplicate and rotate it this side and place it here. Maybe one would be good. So I'm going to select these and combine. Now we have to bridge to create the center part. So again I'm going to use the face mode, and you can press tab to select the faces like this, and that's similar, and bridge. Right. I'm also going to select these two edges and maybe bevel them a little bit. Like this. Now if we press 3 and see it in smooth preview, this looks fine, but we still have triangles here. We need to convert them to quads, but we'll do that in the cleanup later. So let's create this top part first, and for that I think I'll just go to top view and take a cube, and maybe place it like this, and I'll pull these vertices to the top, and I need to place the exact duplicate of it on the other side. So there are two ways to do that. I can create a duplicate and place this one here, or what I can do is to place this exactly on the opposite side of the grid. I can press D and X and set this pivot to the center of the grid. Then I can create a duplicate, go to my channel box, and in the scale of Z, because it's facing the X, because it's facing the X axis, I'm going to add the value of -1, and this will create a duplicate on the other side. Now I need to move it further a little bit, and then create a duplicate, add -1 to scale X, and place it here. Now to create this curve, we have two choices. We can either extrude the top face and then keep extruding and rotating like this, or what we can do is I'm going to select this, create a duplicate, and modify, then center pivot. Then I'm going to rotate this and place it here. So I'm going to press X to snap it to the center of the grid like this, and then scale it down like this. Then I'm going to select these three and combine. Now we can bridge these faces and add a curve like this. And to do that, we have to go to face mode, select these faces, and bridge. Now if we increase the division, it's not going to do anything here, because we need to change the curve type. Now this is linear, so it's going to add subdivisions in the linear position. Now to make it curvy, we have to change it to blend, and if we increase the number of division, it's going to make this curve smoother. So if we add like 12 division, you can see this curve or this arc is smoother. If we turn it down, the number of polygons are going to decrease, but also it's not going to be as smooth as it was before. So I think 4 should be fine for something like this. And again, to fix this green patch, you can go to existing material and reapply. And we're going to repeat the same thing on the other side. Or what we can do is we can go to edge mode and add a split here. Now since these two sides are identical, what we can do is we can create a duplicate of it and place it on the other side, but we are going to do it differently this time. So I'm going to delete all this stuff and we're going to use mirror. So make sure your pivot is at the end, and we're going to go to, let's see where it is. I think it is in the mesh. So we go to mesh and select this mirror. And I'm also going to use this cut geometry and turn down the merge threshold. So if we move it further, it's going to show you that there is no weld here. So to merge these two parts, I'm going to increase the merge threshold just a little bit. So if I move it now, you'll see that these two parts are merged. So maybe a little bit more. And to make sure this is merged, what you can do is you can go to vertex mode, select it, and try to move it around. And again, just to be sure, you can select the vertices in the middle and merge them again, and maybe delete this part. And let's scale it a little bit like this. So if you pay attention here, you can see that this is bent to inside a little bit. So I'm going to add one edge split here. I'm going to select it and scale it down like this, and then bevel like this. Now to maintain this shape, we have to add a split here, then bevel to add some segment. We can also use insert edge loop tool, multi-cut tool, or the connect tool here, but I think this is much faster. So I'm going to select these vertices and pull them up, also these ones, and maybe these. And also what you can do is you can select this and use edit edge flow to maintain this curve. And I'm going to select the edges and press G to repeat my last command. Maybe this is a little too much, so I'm going to push it down. And again use edit edge flow. Right, so this is much better. Now we have to create a hole in the middle of it so that we can use this rod. So for that, what I'm going to do is I'm going to select these and then select similar. And if these are not working, then I'm going to go to top view and select like this, and we'll go to edit mesh and use circularize, and let's decrease the radial offset, and to fix this topology we are going to add a little bit of twist so that we can straight these edges, and maybe this much should be fine. And I'm going to delete. Now I'm going to select these two, and to cover this hole we're going to use bridge again. And one more time, I think we have to bevel these to get rid of the sharpness. And I think I'll repeat the same thing here. Select all the corner edges, and bevel. So the shortcut for bevel is Control B. I'm not worried about the polygon count of this because we're going to take it to ZBrush and sculpt the high poly detail and bring it back to Maya for the low poly. So we can also create this in ZBrush using ZModeler, but this is just an exercise to show you how you can create this in Maya. Now we need to create this part, and this is just a simple cylinder. So I'm just going to take a cylinder here and rotate it. Go to right view and turn down the radius to 0.6, and maybe also the subdivision, and pull this up, place it here. Go to front view, wireframe mode, and I think this should be till here. Like this. I'm going to select the vertices on this side and push them back a little bit, like this, and select this part and maybe bevel. And again I'm going to select this, press D to go in the edit pivot mode, and X to snap it to the grid, and then press Ctrl D to create a duplicate and add -1 to the scale of X to place it on the other side. And if it's not working, what you can do is select it, create a duplicate, and again one more time, and if it's not working, then try the other axis. Now let's create this part. So for this one, what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to create and use a curve tool. So I'm going to use this CV curve tool, and maybe open the settings and make sure this is set to 3 cubic. I'm going to create a curve like this. Bring it out. And you can go to control vertex and maybe push this part down a little bit. Right, now to create this shape, I'm going to go to create, and while selecting my curve, I'm going to select this sweep mesh tool, and maybe I'll select rectangle this time and change the width and height. Keep it 0.1 and 0.1, and increase the precision a little bit. Now turn on the optimize to get rid of some unnecessary edges, and maybe turn down the precision a little bit like this. And also to cover these holes, I'm going to turn on this cap. Select the curve, go to control vertex, and let's modify this a little bit. Now I'm going to select this, go to edit and delete by type history, and then remove that curve and press 3 and smooth it out. It will look something like this, but we have to go to edge mode and select the edges like this, and maybe bevel. I think this should be fine. Also go to modify center pivot and scale it down to make it a little flat. Now this will look something like this. I'm going to select this and use edit edge flow, and also for this, and pull this down, rotate it a little bit, and maybe bevel. Add one segment, and we can use edit edge flow for this. Rotate, and now this looks much better. If I select this, and press T and X, and again go to edit, delete by type history, then create a duplicate, go to channel box and place it on the other side. Now to create this road we just need a simple cylinder and pull this up. I'm going to turn down the radius like this and make sure it fits. Go to front view and I'm going to go to vertex mode and pull these vertices up and these till here, and I'm going to go to face mode and select all the faces down here and add some offset. So I can press shift and scale it like this, or I can press Ctrl E and then add little offset like this, then extrude, and again a little bit of offset and extrude again. Now this is so that this bar can hold its weight, and again we have to select the edges here and bevel. Right, so now we just need to create a rope. So to create a rope, what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to right view and I'm going to create a curve. So for the curve I'm going to go to curve here and take this sphere first, and let's try this and rotate like this. Go to control vertex, select this, and maybe it's not gonna work, so I'll just manually create a curve. Go to curve tool and select this Bezier curve, create a curve here and here, and for this I'm going to pull like this. Right, so I'm going to select this curve, and again we're going to use sweep mesh tool, and we're going to use that to create this rope. So this time we're going to choose the circle, and Also, we're going to turn on the distribution so that we can use multiple instances of this circle, and click on this distribute. Maybe use just 3, and I'm also going to turn the twist to something like this, and again increase the precision to add some segments. Turn down the scale profile and increase the scale instances. Maybe increase the number of instances and sides to 14. Something like this. Now you can select the curve, pull this down to make it longer, and maybe move it around like this. Right, so I'll keep this at 5 and go to edit, delete by type history, and delete that curve. So now we have this pulley model, and I'm going to assign the same material on all of it. Now what we can do is I'm going to select this and scale it down a little bit. Maybe edit edge flow for these edges and do the same thing here. This will give it a nice touch. And maybe remove these for now. Make a little bit of change here and set it to harden edge. And again select these two, bevel like this, and then bevel one more time. And I think this looks much better, and we have to repeat the same thing here. I'm going to remove all the supporting edges on both sides. and delete, and then make this edge sharp and then bevel, and select these 4 edges and add some supporting edge with a little bit of friction. And now let's see how it looks, and I think this looks much better than before. Now I'm going to select all of it and add a new material. Maybe something like this. And let's render this. So for the background, I'm going to take a plane and just scale it up. Remove these segments. And rotate it. And add a new material. Then I'm going to create a camera and set my render cam and look to selected. Now we are looking through the camera and we're going to set our scene. Turn on this resolution gate so that we can see how much of our model we are looking through the camera. I think this much should be fine, but I'm going to take a 1:1 render. And I'm going to lock the camera here and then rename it. And let's change some settings. So I'm going to switch my render device to GPU and also increase the camera sampling to 4. And let's maybe turn on the clamping and diffuse to 2. And I think this is fine. Now I'm going to go my perspective view and add some lights. We are using Arnold render, so we are going to go to Arnold and select an area light and scale it up, and I'm going to place it like this. No, you guys are muted, so I thought you left. And maybe rotate it a little bit. And I'm going to turn off the normalize, and let's take out a render and see how it looks. Since we are using a GPU render, this might take few minutes to start. And I'm going to take this perspective and change it to camera shape. Now this is too dark, so we have to increase the exposure of this light. So I'll take, I think, 3 or 4. Maybe 4 is way too much. And let's change the temperature and make it a little bit warmer. or maybe we can change the color of the light. And I think the exposure is way too much. And I'm going to go to top view and select my light, and let's change the pivot of it to the center of this object. So when we duplicate it and rotate it, it rotates to the exact point where we want it. And if I take out render now, and we can always play with the materials. So I'm going to change the preset of this Arnold material, maybe exposure something like 0.7, and we have to go to presets, and let's set it to maybe iron or something. Let's try this brushed metal, and I think I'll increase the roughness, and make it darker. And for the rope, I think we can just use a color. So this is our final work, and I think this render came out pretty good. And this would be much better when we take it out in ZBrush and sculpt all the high poly detail and create a game ready asset of it. So I think this much should be enough for today. And if you have any questions, then do let me know and I'll try to answer. You can unmute now.
जी सर। काफ़ी अच्छा रहा है सर, देख रहा था।
Thank you, Minal.
हाँ, अच्छा था, इट्स नाइस।
Thanks.
मज़ा आया और ठीक है, इतना बहुत है मेरा ख्याल है। अच्छा किया ये थोड़ा सिंपल ऑब्जेक्ट उठाया।
Yeah. In the next one, I think I'll take it in ZBrush, and that would be a separate stream. And we'll sculpt it, and maybe we'll create our own alpha map in Photoshop and use it in ZBrush to sculpt the metallic part of it. And in few more streams, this should be completed with texturing, baking, rendering, and everything. And this stream would be available in YouTube also, so I'm gonna upload it right now, and this will be posted, I think, by tomorrow evening.
मैं बीच में इसीलिए नहीं बोला, मतलब यूट्यूब हो रहा होगा, कोई मस्ती नहीं
मैं भी
करनी।
खुद इस वजह से, क्योंकि पीछे ना माइक का कुछ ज़्यादा ही मेरा साउंड आ रहा था घर का।
Okay, no problem, that's all right. So, any questions?
नहीं सर।
मेरा था एक क्वेश्चन, और वो ये था कि अगर ये जो पुली का आपने जो एक ऊपर का टॉप वाला हिस्सा जो है,
Yeah.
जिसको आपने सर्कुलाइज करके फिर उसको डिलीट करके ब्रिज किया है,
Mm-hmm.
इसको आपने सर्कुलाइज कैसे किया? मतलब क्योंकि अगर मैं सिलेंडर को किसी अगर फ्रंट फेस से अगर मैं सर्कुलाइज करता हूँ ना, तो उसका शेप थोड़ा आउटडेट हो जाता है।
There are options here that would fix that problem. So, first of all, you need to have some segments. So, if you circularize here, it's going to distort your shape,
हाँ जी।
right? So, you have to have some segments here. So, if I split it and add one more segment, now I can circularize here. So if this distorts your shape, you can go to alignment and change to one of these, and this might fix this issue.
ओह अच्छा, तो
I
मेरे
think
साथ
per
बात नहीं हो रही
vertex
थी।
would be good. And to fix the topology, you can use twist. Now this is all in cylindrical shape, and if you delete it now, your shape should be fine.
ओह अच्छा अच्छा अच्छा, तो वो पुली वाला मैंने असल में पार्ट थोड़ा मिस हो गया था, तो आपने उसको भी ऐसे ही किया था?
Yes.
ओके ओके, सही है। बाकी तो मुझे अंडरस्टैंडमेंट है इतनी मॉडलिंग की, बस ऊपर का ही एक पार्ट था।
Okay, now this would be available in YouTube, so you can watch it again.
हाँ, पर वीडियो देखते के साथ मैं स्पेस दबा रहा, मगर रुको समझ नहीं आ रहा, अबे रुकती क्यों नहीं? चलें ठीक है, नेक्स्ट टाइम
Okay.
मिनाल भाई इनको थोड़ा मोटिवेट करना पड़ेगा, वरना फिर बोलेंगे यार कोई